Hi guys, Ben here. Just going to take you through my seller toolkit rules setup for Repricer, which a few of you have asked for. So firstly, to get the Repricer, you go down to in-app purchases here and then sign up for it, and you get a 2-week free trial so you can try before you buy. And then come up to here, Repricer rules, and you get to this page. So I was hoping to be able to do this from a completely blank slate, but as you can see, Seller Toolkit doesn't let you delete a rule that's in use, which probably makes sense. So I'm going to go through how I set up this rule, and then how to set up the following rules where you want to get rid of stock that's aged. So once you get to here, you click on the Add Rule button to bring up the rule. So I'm just going to call this Default Demo, and then if you make this your default rule, anything that's had cost of goods input for it on Seller Toolkit will now start repricing based on this rule. So you can see to begin with, this is like the skeleton of a rule. So yeah, it's not actually doing anything at the moment. So let's give it some rules. So if we go to match offer, so generally you're going to want a price match. So yeah, you do have the ability to price above by a fixed amount, below by a fixed amount or percentage. Oof, why would you want to do that? And then you can choose whether it's prime not next day delivery, so that's seller fulfilled prime, or FBA that's not fully checked in yet, or non-prime, which is FBM sellers. So generally for your default rule, you just want to price match the prime price, because you're not interested in prime not next day delivery, because they're not going to get the buy box, or and likewise with FBM if there's FBA sellers around a similar price. So for your default rule, all you want to do is match prime price, and then you've got these extra bits here. So price match guard is if you're setting rules for all these different scenarios, but as we're just doing prime, we don't need to worry about those. So yeah, we can move on to the next. So obviously we don't want to just match the lowest prime price, whatever it is, because we still want to make some money. So how do we set the minimums? I'm glad you asked. Well, we go to the appropriately named minimums tab, and then here you can select minimum profit, minimum ROI, or minimum margin, and you can actually set it to combination. I go for minimum ROI, so I go for 15% minimum ROI. So I'd recommend going around 5% below what your minimum deal criteria is. The reason for this is, so for example, my minimum is 20%. So if I'm buying something, chances are other people are looking at the same item and going to be buying them. So I think we've all seen recently, when stuff's on the way to Amazon, it tends to drop in price a little bit. So if I'm buying it at 20%, I'll take 19%. And yeah, so basically give yourself that 5% cushion to still get sales when your stock first jets in, because some items obviously just go down and down and never recover. So it's definitely worth building in a bit of a buffer. So I put 15% ROI in here. You can do profit as well. So if I were to put £2 profit in here, and then you can set it to either the lowest of each of these or the highest of these. But yeah, I just go to the minimum ROI, keep it simple, and then you can see as we're creating these rules, it populates on the right hand side here. Maximums I don't bother with. I'm not sure why you would have maximums on your repricer. Automations will come to once we've got more than one rule set up. Exclude sellers, so you want to exclude Amazon and Amazon EU, just so if they jump in stock at a very low price, which happens sometimes, your repricer doesn't just nuke down to its minimum. So exclude Amazon EU. You can also exclude individual sellers using their seller ID. So yeah, I know some people do the sellers that are in anti-tank automation, which you may want to do, so that you don't follow the tankers down. But yeah, that's up to you. And then we come on to only seller. So this is when you're the only seller on the listing, which is obviously a brilliant position to be in. So yeah, you'll generally want to increase your price here. So I just go increase by 5%. I did try 20% initially, but then literally everything would just get deactivated due to high pricing error. So yeah, I just do 5% now. But yeah, 10 will probably be okay as well. So you've got only seller, only prime seller. So there's FBM sellers, but you're the only FBA seller. Again, I do 5% increase. and then suppress buy box. So this is where Amazon deem the price to be too expensive, so there's no buy box. You've got various different options here. So you can reduce price by fixed amount or fixed percent, match lowest price, which includes FBA, FBM, SFP. I go for this match lowest price option 1. If there's no prime, then the price will not change. So I go with that. Other people may use others. You can experiment and have a go yourselves. But yeah, I've found that this works well for me. And then finally the snooze. So you can set a master snooze for all of your rules, which is what I do. Snooze is really useful because it basically allows listings to recover overnight if they've been tanked. It only really works if there's a lower number of sellers on it, because basically everyone has to shift their price up for it to recover. But it can be useful if you're the only person on the listing, along with an undercutter who is just going to undercut and undercut and undercut. Let's say you're at £40, they undercut you to $39.99, $39.98 every time you match them. That's going to go down, keep going all the way down until one of you hits your minimum. So let's say that's 35 quid. So if you go down to 35 quid, the undercut is going to be at $34.99. You're not going to get any sales until the undercutter sells out. However, if you increase your price overnight and then the undercutter matches you back up to 40 quid, the next day you're going to go 39, 38, 37, 36, etc. But you should still get sales at those price points above, so it allows you to make a bit more profit, make a few more sales. It only really comes into effect and is effective when multiple people are doing it or when there's fewer people on the listing, but it is a useful weapon against undercutting. So I'll show you how you set that up in a minute. But yeah, for now we've got this is our rule that we've set up. So if the lowest price is prime offer, we're going to match it. We're not interested in prime offers that don't have next day delivery, not interested in non-prime offers. Minimum ROI 15%, no maximums. Suppress buy box, match the lowest prime price. Only seller increase by 5%, only prime seller increase by 5% as well. Exclude Amazon and Amazon EU and allow snooze. So cool, let's save this and continue. And then you can see our new shiny default demo rule has come over here. So yeah, and it matches what I'm using at the moment, which currently all of my items are on. So let's go to the snooze. So if you go Snooze Master, so let's turn this on. So yeah, as I just mentioned, the snooze is there to allow sort of listings to recover overnight. So I set mine between 2 and 4 a.m. This only really works if you're the only seller on it, along with one or two people undercutting or matching, because if they're matching as well, when you raise your price, they will also go up. And generally, the more people who snooze, the better listings will be. So yeah, I choose between 2 and 4 a.m. So yeah, I'd encourage you guys to do the same, because if everyone lifts their price up, then that will become the new price. Whereas if only one person does it and the other FBA sellers are down here, then at 4 a.m. it's just going to go back and match. So yeah, I go increase by 20% between 2 and 4 a.m. I get lots of emails overnight saying that listings have been deactivated due to high price error, but then when they go back down, they're all good. It just allows listings to recover if there's very few other sellers on it. So definitely worth doing. So let's update that, and then you can see this little clock comes up here at the top to show that the snooze is in progress. Cool. So obviously, yeah, minimum ROI 15% for our default rule. Brilliant. Everything that I enter a cost of goods is going to start repricing based on that rule. But as we've seen, sadly, some listings do tank into oblivion. And you're not always going to make 15% plus ROI. So what I do is I set a rule for after 30 days, I'm happy to go down to an ROI of 0%. So that basically means if the ROI of the lowest prime price is between 0 and 15%, I will now match them. And yeah, generally you want to be selling out your stock on a month by month basis. It's good for your cash flow. It's keeps Amazon happy with your IPI score and all that. So let's set up a second rule for 30 days. So let's call this 30-day break even. So you can set it to override the default based on if it's in a particular category or anything like that, but I don't bother with that. I've never used it. If anyone has, let us know. But yeah, I just leave this blank. So I'm basically going to do exactly the same here. So yeah, only matching prime price, not interested in prime, not next day or non-prime. The only difference is going to be minimum ROI. I'm going to put this to 0%. So this doesn't mean it's going to tank it to 0%. It just means I'm now going to get sales between 0 and 15%, which I wouldn't have before on the default rule. No maximums again. Automations we'll look at because you have to set it on the previous rule that you want to flow into this rule. Again, we're going to exclude Amazon and Amazon EU. Only seller. Yeah, after 30 days, I'm still happy to increase price because that's still a good position to be in. Likewise with the only prime seller. And suppressed buy box, I use the same. So there we go. So let's save that. And then we can see here, these are exactly the same, but minimum ROI 15% and minimum ROI of 0%. But nothing is going to go into this rule because I haven't set any automations up. So currently everything is still in here. So now in order to set up the flow from your default rule into your 30-day break-even rule, you need to go into edit your default rule, and then you go to automations. And then here you can say if there's no orders in the last however many days, if stock level drops to however many, or if stock ages by however many days or more, then you can set it to a different rule. So what I'm going to do is if stock ages by 30 days or more, we're going to put it into our 30-day break-even rule. And then you can change it so if the stock age decreases below 30 days, revert back to this rule. So yeah, that's for if you're doing some crazy replanning where you've got different shipments with the same item going in. So if you sell all of your items that are older than 30 days and then the rest of your stock is below 30 days old, it will go back to the default rule. So you can turn that on. And then we update that. So now you can see we've got our default rule, but then automations pops up. So if stock ages by 30 days or more, set rule to 30 days break even, and then revert back to this rule when aging decreases below 30 days. Brilliant. So what do we do if things still aren't selling despite you matching down to 0%? So unfortunately, I know this is a swear word in ATA, but we need to start undercutting the dreaded U word. Because yeah, at 60 days, you've paid a couple of months of storage fees, your IPI is starting to get affected, and most importantly, your cash is locked up. You just need to get that cash out and spend it on items that are profitable. So let's add rule. Let's call it 60-day undercut. And yeah, do not set this as your default rule. You've got to be yeah, not sure why anyone would have undercutting as default, but anyway. And then basically here we're just going to go price below by fixed amount. So we just want to get rid of this stock because it's been hanging around for a couple of months. So for everything, we're just going to go price below, but whatever the lowest price is, we're just going to price below by a penny until we get rid of it. Minimums, so obviously we haven't managed to sell out, matching it down to break even, so we're going to need to actually go into the negative here. So I go for minus 20%, yeah, because you just want to get rid of this stock and get your cash out. No maximums again. Automations we'll do on the previous rule. Again, still exclude Amazon and Amazon EU. And then the only prime seller, because I want to just get rid of this stock, I don't increase at all. And suppress buy box, I now just match lowest price. Or you could just you could undercut as well. But yeah, because the cheapest comes up first anyway when you with a suppressed buy box, you can get away with just matching. But yeah, if you wanted to reduce as well, you could. And then snooze is done by the master. So let's save that. Cool, and then our 60-day undercut comes up here. So yeah, so we're undercutting regardless of whatever the lowest price is, down to a minimum ROI of minus 20%, which is a pretty sorry state of affairs. And then yeah, we're not increasing if we're the only seller or only prime seller because we just want to get rid of this stock. And then what you do again is go back to the previous rule. So now we're going into our 30-day break-even rule that we want to flow into our undercut. So again, if stock ages this time by 60 days, we are going to change it to the undercut rule, and then you can see that pop up here on the right hand side with automations, and then update. Cool. So so yeah, now we've got our three rules. We've got our default, which is minimum ROI 15%, our 30-day break even at 0%, and then our undercut if it goes above 60 days or more. So, and you can see 68 of my SKUs have already moved over to the 30-day break even rule. Be interesting to see how many go over to the undercut. But yeah, so basically that is in a nutshell how I set up my Repricer, and I do tweak these sometimes, but this is sort of the formula that's worked for me. And basically anything that you add cost of goods for in Seller ToolKit will start repricing based on your default rule. Now there's some items that you might not want to reprice manually, so either high ticket items that you're making a lot more ROI on, or Amazon to Amazon flips. So personally with these, I don't input my cost of goods because I want to price them manually, because generally for Amazon to Amazon I'm going to be making higher ROI, so I don't want it to, if someone comes on and tanks the listing, I don't want it to drop down to 15%. And yeah, I got stung by this in the past with a high ticket item, so the Epson V39 scanners. So yeah, I was happily selling these at 220 quid a few months ago before they completely tanked. But then someone came on the listing at 150 quid. So because it was on my default rule, and 150 quid, even though it was a 70 quid drop, it was still above my minimum of 15%. So that then nuked down to 150 quid. Someone bought me out. If it was someone in ATA, then more power to you. But yeah, so for items that you're making a lot of ROI on, you generally don't want to be repricing. So you either set up a new rule for those with a higher minimum ROI, or just don't input your cost of goods, because then the repricing is going to kick in. Or you can go through and if you go to inventory, you can search for your SKUs or ASINs and then manually decide whether to turn repricing off, or you can set minimums which override the minimum ROI. And there's loads of great videos on YouTube and in the Facebook group, which you can join up here if you want to go into them anymore. I'm not going to show you those on here because otherwise you'll see all my items and where to buy them from. Although yeah, it looks like 30 of mine have gone into the 60-day undercut, so you probably don't want to be buying what I'm buying anyway, to be honest. Cool, so the final bit, if you go to Repricer dashboard, you can filter on what's at your minimum price based on the rules that you've got set. So if you send something in and it's already, by the time it's in, it's at your minimum of 15%, when you go to the dashboard, you can basically see everything that's at your minimum, at the minimum price based on your rules. So what you can do here, if you've got time, you can just leave it and be like, right, after 30 days it's going to go down to naught. But some listings, as we've seen, just tank and tank and tank and tank and tank. So if you notice that something's it's already at 15% or whatever your minimum is, you can have a look to see if it's likely to recover. Because if it's selling 30 a month and there's only 5 in stock below it, then yeah, it's not going to take long before the price is going to recover. Whereas if it sells 30 a month and there's 100 stock below your 15% minimum, you know the listing is unlikely to recover. If anything, it's probably going to go down as those sellers start competing. So you probably want to take what you can get, and you can manually change it to this rule, which will then get you sales between 0 and 15% while you still can. So yeah, that's a couple of little tips to bear in mind. But yeah, hope you found that useful. That's how to set up the rules. Yeah, see you in ATA. Cheers.